All right, everybody. Good afternoon. I thought with everything that was going on that it was a good time to maybe try some challenges for myself. So the time is 3:48, and I'm gonna try and challenge myself over the next hour to try and build something from scratch, something totally original and new in my head as I do it, and see what I can build. I'm going to try and play with, I'm going to use Maya and Disguse today, and I'm going to try to make something that explores kind of dynamic automation and dynamic screens, possibly using alembic, but also some automation techniques, and I might also put in some DMX lighting. So yeah, we'll see what I can build and what I make. I'm going to share this, let people actually know that I'm doing what I'm doing. Give me 1 second to do that. Right. Okay, so do we have anybody watching? Maybe? Right. I'm just going to get started. I think I'm streaming. If one of my friends can send me a message if they start seeing me streaming, that would be awesome. So I'm just going to get started. Well, to start with, I made a truss the other day that was kind of funky. So I might build a couple of those just to create something to start. So I'm setting a radius and a height for my tubing of my truss, and I'm going to raise it up. And I'm going to move it to -0.2, -0.2. Okay, so now that I've got these 4 tubes, I think the best way to do this is maybe to do ladders now. Well, we'll give that a shot. So I'm going to add another sphere, another cylinder, 0.02. Let's make it 0.01. And it's going to be, let's make it point. So I've now put those two on 45 degrees. I'm going to duplicate them. I'm actually going to group them and then duplicate. Let's see. We'll move it up to 0.8. So I'm going to go edit, duplicate special, and I'm going to translate them by 0.8, 1, no rotation, and let's give myself 5 copies. Cool. So I get rid of that. Now I'm going to move that. So from my view here, I can see about where it's at. And then I need to also put in a crossbar that has no rotation. Actually, it's 90 rotation. And it's going to go at the top. Scale that in a little bit, and also at the bottom. Okay, so now I have one of those. So I'm going to grab all those, I'm going to group them. I'm going to go to my duplicate special, and we're going to rotate 90 degrees. We're not going to change anything, and we need 3 of them. So now we have a piece of truss. So this is a 3-meter H40 design. Now I'm going to take all of this and I'm going to group it. Now before I go much further, I'm going to actually extrude and add my LED lighting right now. So I'm going to put some LED tape on these 2 edges. So what I'll do is I'm going to extract those. I'm going to extract those 2 units. So now I've got that one and that one. I'm going to duplicate them. And I'm going to put them on a separate layer for the moment. I'm going to call that LED tape. And what I can then do is go back to, if I hide these or make them transparent, now I can grab and I can recombine that. So now I have a solid cylinder again. And now I go back to my tape that I have, and if I group that and again use my duplicate special, it will I need to put that to the center of the universe, and then now if I hit duplicate special, we get the tape on all sides. So now I can group all of these. And let's have a look at those UVs for a moment. So the UVs for those right now look like that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select the UV shells, and I'm going to go to modify, and I'm going to distribute the shells, and then I'm going to normalize them. If I can, let's see, edit, modify, normalize. Ah, my bad. So if I grab all of these, I need to actually combine them, and then go to my UV editor, and then I can normalize them. And now each of those different LEDs will be a separate line in our resolution. I'm also going to rotate that, so now that runs horizontally, which will make more sense in a few moments. Okay, so now I've got that. I'm actually going to grab everything in my whole scene, and I'm going to add a deformer, and I'm going to use here a non-linear deformer. It's a twist. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to make everything here a group, and then I'm going to apply my deformer to the group, and so the twist on the group now allows us to put a 360 degree twist. No, that didn't work. Okay, let's try that again. So, okay. First thing is, let's add this selected object and we'll make that invisible. Actually, we do need that. So then everything else in our whole project now needs to be combined. And then we grab these two objects and we group them. And now let's try to deform them. We'll see if this works. I may have to try a different route. So now in our twist, let's change it to 359. Ooh, nope. Nope. So let's try again with just this and see if that works. I'm trying what one of my students suggested was an alternative workflow to the method that I did this last time, and it does not work. Okay. Well, that's all right. We'll just back up a little bit. I know a reason why that wouldn't work. Let's make sure that we add divisions. Forgot the first step. 4, 3. What's nice about this workflow is that it shouldn't take me too long to fix that. So what I forgot to do is that I needed to add subdivisions around the height of this. So I really want to have about 48 of those. And then okay, so now this is combined. Let's hope that was that. Let's see what happens now. I'm going to group those, and then I'm going to try to do a twist deformer. Let's see. There we go. That worked out okay. Now, the only question I have yeah, that didn't work. That's all right. it's a nice effect. Let's see what it looks like. So, so now I've created that. I'm going to combine everything except for our LEDs. I'm going to combine them into a single mesh, and I'm going to export them, export it to my Disguse project, which I'm going to do the export as an OBJ. So this is going to be spiral truss. And I'm not going to worry about the LED for the moment. It's just nice to have a structure to put in. So let me switch over to Disguse. I'm now going to drop that model into my space and start working with it. So the first thing I'm going to do is reset all of these values to a base state, so 0 offset, scale, all of that. I don't need it this high resolution, so I'm going to switch that to my spiral truss model. And so now I have a spiral truss inside D3. Now a couple of things, D3 changed this recently, so you have to go into the camera settings to get rid of surface labels and people, etc. I don't really need to see projectors right now, so I'm going to hide them. Right, so now I've got this spiral truss. But there's no screen here. So first thing let's do is let's build a little set. So I'm going to first rename this to spiral truss 1. Now I can start duplicating it. So I'm going to make a little structure here, so that way 6 from this one. Okay, so now I've got these 3 spiral truss stands. I don't know, just to create a bit of a structure for what we're going to build next. And let's go build something next. So first, let me switch back over to Maya. In Maya, I'm going to hide this object for the moment, so we don't have to look at it for the moment. In fact, we're going to hide that too. Add that to the selected object. Okay, so now we know those stages were 3 meters, so I'm going to build, let's see, we're going to do, let's make it 200 mil high. Let's make it a 3 by, so we'll make it a 2 by 3 piece of deck. And I'm going to move it to the side here because we know that it's offset. And I think we actually need to, let's just take a quick measurement in D3. So I'll switch over to Disguse, and in Disguse I'm just going to, this is center to center, so really I'm not getting any measurements here, but that's perfectly understandable. Okay, so I think we've got to do 400, so 2, 2, 4. So it's 3 meters minus 400, so we're at 260. So if we go back in here, we want to go to our Auto Maya, and we're going to adjust to make our depth to 600, 2.6 meters. And I'm going to put it back to the center of the universe because that way I can move it around most easily. So let's put our first stage in. So we'll just export that. Deck 1. And so now I can come into my project and I can add my deck. So I'm going to make a new one, call it deck, and change that so that I can bring in my deck model, which also seems to have my truss model in it. Brilliant. So let's try that again. So let's export just our selection as an OBJ. Interesting. Okay. Now, for fun, we can actually turn these into lifts. So I'm going to add an open layer. And I'm going to open each of the setups and also open my open module. And I'm going to drag from here, from the open module, to my offset. And I don't need offset X and Z, I just need offset Y. So I'm going to remove X and Z from each of these. Last one. So once I have these done, now I can set trim height. So the minimum here is ever going to go is actually going to be to, let's set to 0.5. And the maximum it's ever going to go is 3 meters. And we'll give it some extra resolution. And now we need to do that for each of these. So 0.5, half a meter, and maximum of 3 meters at a resolution of 0.01. Again, same thing. 0.5. See, can you do that? No, you can't do that with the open module. That would be too nice. 0.01. And this one we're going to do to 0.5 and 3 and 0.1. Okay, so now what happens is with this open module, I can now patch and pre-sequence my automation control. So I can basically create stage lifts. So that's the first part of that. Now let's do something to make a screen for that. So what happens if we want to have a projection screen onto those stage lifts? So what we can do is, if we go back to our model here that we had already, and we change the pivot point of this model that we've just made, and we raise it up. So we change the pivot point so that it's at the top, and we move it to the bottom. What we can now change is actually, if we set this to 1, actually we'll leave it as it is. Now what happens, if you scale Y, you're able to change height. So if we bring it all the way to the top, we can say that's 0. And if we set all the way to to the bottom, we can say that's 1. So here I'm going to set this to actually be a total of 3 meters high. It might be a little bit less. We'll aim for 3 meters. Now I'm going to export this. And I'm going to call it my projection surface. But before I can do that, let's look at our UVs for this object. Yeah, it's not going to work. So what we want to do is we want to grab our faces, and we want to from the front point of view, which is actually not the way we want it to be. So we want from the right point of view. Let's first identify in the UV editor which faces we're dealing with. So we'll grab faces. Let's see, right across there. So ideally it's these 3 faces. So let's look at our model, and that's not the ones we want. In fact, let's just deal with one. Yeah, so it's this one, that one, and that one. What we can do is we can do a best plane. Actually, no, what we can do is a planar map of those. These ones just disappear. And now if we grab all these shells and we go modify distribute shells, what have you done? Okay, let's try this the other way. So first thing we're going to do is let's go to back view, front view. We do this UV based on camera. And then we go around and we go to our right view and we do the same. We go this UV based on camera, and then we go to our back view and we do create UV based on camera. And now we should have UVs separated. So if we look in our 3D space, here's the first one. Here's the second one. Here's the third one. Now, we know that this one is going to be 1.5 times what this one is in width. So let's do that. Snap these together. We will normalize them. And normalizing is something that we do every time, no matter what, because we need to fill the whole, what will be the export area, will be the screen area with pixels. So now that we have that, let's grab our object and let's export that object again. And we're going to export that as projection surface. We'll go into let's jump to our Disguse project. And now we're going to add another screen. So let's add rise or lift screen 1. And lift screen 1 is going to use our projection surface. And now we can start playing with scale. So what's really cool is that now if we add here to, let's see, let's check the hierarchy. Huh, that was interesting. Oh, I think I renamed it. That's not a good thing. Hold on. So this is deck. So let's duplicate that. So this is going to be projection screen, or we're going to call it lift screen 1. And so this screen 1, because it's already got, in fact, let's set it to 0, 0, 0. Okay, so our lift screen is there. It's actually this projection surface, and we're going to make it, let's make it HD by 1080. Now, it's not in the right position, but what we can do is that if we go to this deck and we say add child lift screen 1, then lift screen 1 is now parented to that object. I think I broke my open module. I did break my open module. So let's remove that. So let's just redo this. So I have 3, I have deck, I need deck 2, and I need offset. So let's do that, and let's do that. Let's get rid of the X's and the Z's. And the Z's. And we need to set these again. So that was 0.5 to 3. 0.5 to 3, 0.5 to 3, 0.5 to 3, 0.01. Make them all the same. Okay. Now, what we can also do is if I open my lift screen here, I can drive scale of Y as well. And what's cool about that is that now for deck 1, and there's a bug here which D3 should know about. Basically it double texts in what you've got. So we need to actually make this the inverse of that. So if we no, we need this to go from 0 to 1. And we need to divide by 3. So we can change this expression to say divide by 3, and now, not quite right, but it's getting there. I think I removed the field. Let's see. Lift screen, scale, Y, remove. So when this, let's say you're at 3, let's just do it the other way. So if we go from 3, the lift screen needs to be at, so let's make it -1, maximum of 0. 0, 0, -1, 0, 0. Okay, so we can now sequence this so that this is always the same. It would be great to be able to do that, but we have to figure out the equation. So now whatever we do here is changing the size of the screen below. Cool. So let's make our projection screen here a translucent screen. So let's go to 0.5. Okay, so now we can do the same thing with these. So let's do that one to there, that one to there. Now let's duplicate our lift screen 2. And now let's add a child, which will be lift screen 2. Duplicate lift screen 2, make that do lift screen 3. And on this deck, we want to add a child, which will be screen 3. And this is going to be 4. Let's add a child and make that 4. So now we have 4 projection screens. Just checking on how many viewers. We've got 5 people watching. Amazing. Have I had any comments? No, no questions. So now we can actually turn these into a screen right now. So let's add some media. So earlier I grabbed some Beeple content. This is Glass Vein by Beeple, but I'm going to change my mapping type here, and I'm going to do a parallel mapping. And the screens I want it to see will be my lift screens. So now I can adjust the size of this to lock to my aspect ratio. I'm going to bring it out. And I'm also going to position it up a little bit, so we're kind of in the middle of the field. There's some music to that too, nice. We'll just turn our volume off for now so you can continue to hear me. So now we have got these lifts in operation, and if we program that lift to move, because of the parallel, the content will continue to map onto it. In fact, I'm going to give myself a DMX fader so that I can test this better. So I'm going to add this DMX fader to this open module, which of course needs to have an expression. The wrong one, so let's do that one to there. Yeah, cool. Okay, so now I still need to fix the scaling on these ones. So what I'm going to do is jump in to Alt to scale, Alt to scale, Alt to scale, and then I want to get rid of my X's and my Y, my Z's, because they're annoying. And so yeah, so that's set up now. So now I need to link each of these. So this one is going to go to that one. So deck 3 goes to screen 2. Deck goes to 3. That one goes there. Now again, there's a bug. You gotta delete this. And we needed to. Yeah, so that's there. And we needed to divide, let's see, You need that. Let's put this one all the way up to start. And then this needs to be divided by 3. Yep, so now, yep, that works. Okay, so now we go to our next one. Let's put all these all the way to the top. So, let's see, this one is going to, hit delete again, D3 bug. Let's divide that by 3. And last one, delete the bug and divide by 3. Cool, so now while I'm connected, unfortunately I loaned my actual MIDI controller to somebody else, so I'm going to have to use this virtual one. But I can now create some different looks while the content is playing. So I can play with different pieces. Now if this was actually being tied to the automation motors, then you'd be setting an expression or linking in some kind of automation control, maybe Posi StageNet, maybe DMX, probably Posi StageNet, or some kind of tracking so that you knew where those screens were going to be. But this gives you a rough idea about how you can set up automation, at least from a pre-visualization and a sequencing point of view, to be able to build, some basic structures and build a basic design with some automation involved. Just play with it dynamically and see how you feel about the staging and what's going on. So, right, so that was kind of an automation one. I also promised that I would do some DMX lighting, and also that I would do something with an alembic. So let's first look at the DMX lighting. So I'm going to jump back into Maya and just make sure that you can see what I'm doing. So this, back in my Maya project, I'm going to look again to my spiral truss that I made earlier. So let's look at that for a second. So on this spiral truss, I am going to grab an edge. It goes all the way around, and I'm going to go to modify, convert here in Maya, and I'm going to change that polygon edge into a curve. Except I don't really want all of that. So let's double click that again, except I don't want you, and I don't want you. So now I'm going to go to display, modify, it's not a particularly good spot. Hold on, let me just see here. Okay, let's get that one. And then let's, okay, so modify, convert, polygon edge to curve. Okay, and now I'm going to grab the next edge next to it. And again, I don't want the top and the bottom bit, so I will get rid of those. And then I'm going to hit G, which is last selection. Now on this curve, I'm going to go to curves, and I'm going to go to rebuild curve. And what I want to do is set 0 to number of spans. And I'm going to say here I'm setting that I want 170 spans, and I'm doing 170 because I'm kind of presuming that this is like a LED pixel tape and that there's about one universe over 3 meters. So that's 170 pixels, 3 channels, 512 channels to a universe. So I'm doing about 170 pixels from top to bottom. I don't know what this product is. I'm just giving a guess, but this will mean that each piece of tape, each spiral is 1 universe, which means each spiral truss is 4 universes, and it'll just keep it easy in my head when I need to be setting things up a bit later. So I'm going to say rebuild on each of these. And what that's going to do is it's going to give me new curves, and then I take those 2 curves that I've just been made, and I'm going to go into my loft options. Now, I want to be dealing with polygons. They are going to be cubic because I don't want to have hard edges. I want to have kind of curved edges. And I'm going to go to control points. And by going to control points, those CVs, those curve points that we sent in the section of spans that we set in the last action, those are now going to become individual polygons, 1 polygon per pixel. So I'm going to go ahead and loft that. And if we zoom in now, you can actually see that it's subdivided more than I want. So to get rid of that, I'm going to click on an edge. And I'm going to click on this other edge, and I'm going to delete it. Now, deleting edges doesn't actually get rid of polygons. You have to get rid of it at the vertex level. So I can select all of these, but then I also want a bit of structure, so I'm going to keep my corner edges on both the top and the bottom. Pro tip. And then I'm going to hit delete, and it's going to delete all the different, all the vertices that I'm not using, and therefore all the polygons I'm not using. Now let's look at the UV for this. So in 3D space, we've now got this thing, and it's going all the way around. But in 2D space, if we look at our UV editor, it's actually given us a UV, a single UV shell. That is huge. But it's linear, so it represents a linear line that follows that entire spiral path, which is exactly what we want when we want to map LED for ArtNet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the UV shell, and I need to normalize this. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to scale down, and I'm going to scale down a little more. I'm going to come over here, and now I'm going to normalize this. And what this has done is that it's now laid out in a linear fashion all of the 170 individual pixels, so that when I set my resolution in D3, I now have a screen that I can assign to 1 pixel equals 1 polygon for ArtNet values. Okay, so now that I've got this object, I can actually duplicate it entirely. So if I go to my duplicate special, that's all good. Duplicate special, I now have 4 of those. I don't even need 4 of those technically. I can do this all with 1. So let's take that and export that single string. So I'm going to export that selection. I'm going to call it my pixel spiral. I'm going to export that. So let's flip over to D3 now, back into Disguse. Now I'm over in Disguse, and I want to add my pixel tape. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my spiral. It doesn't matter which spiral I choose. So let's go to my spiral, and the first thing I want to do is I'm going to duplicate this, and I'm going to call it pixel spiral pixel 1, and I'm going to change its type. So let's change its type, and we're going to make it a DMX screen. and that might crash everything. Whoop, there we go. Okay, so I didn't crash this. Brilliant. So now, first thing let's do is let's set this to 0, 0, 0. And let's set the resolution. So the resolution here is going to be 170 by 1. And in fact, let's try it the other way. Let's do 1 by 170. Yep, there we go. Okay, so now our pixel tape is actually already assigned ArtNet values. And if we go to our addressing section here, first thing is under status, real pain is that you always have to set this to active. You always have to make sure that's active. The type is going to be RGB, and we are going to set this as universe 1. Now, first thing is that we want to parent this to our first truss. So let's go to our, we actually made them as projection surfaces. So spiral truss 1, which is the first one we grabbed, we're going to add the child as spiral pixel 1. Little pro tip, this is a good time to leave this propped open. And if you leave that propped open, the other thing to do is if you go to your video module, I'm also going to open my parallel and I'm going to leave it propped open. Because if you open a mapping and you keep it open while you're doing other work, then the new objects that you create as you duplicate will always be added straight into to the mapping. So it just saves a little bit of time because something's kind of going on in the background and it's not a manual process then. So we've got our first one. So let's add our second one. Okay, and so spiral pixel 2, what's nice about that is that we just type in that we're rotating at 90 degrees. And we should have, now this is also a time when I like to add something that I can start to see video content being made on this. So I'm going to add a radar module, and I'm going to put the radar module, first of all I'm going to slow it way down. Let's make it 30. And let's make the beam size big. And it is, so let's speed it up here. Oh, I know why. So if we go to our DMX screens, spiral pixel. I forgot to swap it out. So let's go to spiral pixel. And this one also needs to be the spiral pixel. And so now you can start to see them. So spiral pixel 2, so the first one's there. The second one is there. Let's just check our radar module is going to the right place. It's not going to there. We want it to go to all pixels. And let's make it a direct map. And in all pixels, we will add our spiral pixel 1 and our spiral pixel 2. And I think these are the wrong way, so let's just fix that. So let's make it 170 by 1. 1. That's better. Okay, so now if we go to our second spiral and we duplicate it, and we rotate it to 180, and we do the same thing again, we rotate this one to 270. Now we have pixels on all of it, and we just need to shut some windows now. Let's go to spiral pixel 1 because I'm pretty sure that's the one that's stuck open. No, there we go. Just played around with some setup here. Actually, let's move it back. Okay. So that's some LED pixel tape. Now we did forget to do one thing, which is that we want to open up all three of these, and we want to make sure that this is universe 4, this is universe 3, this is universe 2, and this is universe 1. And so once we've done that, then we can add our DMX device up here, and we'll set it as a loopback adapter so that we're not flooding anything. And if I click here on ArtNet output, you can actually see that I'm actually outputting ArtNet right now, outputting the DMX values on 4 universes. If I continue with this setup, then I would put those on every single one of those trusses, and ultimately you're looking at 20 universes of LED tape there. No, sorry, 16. No, 20 universes of LED tape there. So I will do that, but first I think let's continue on and look at an alembic screen. This is an idea that I've been playing with a little bit. So I'm going to switch back over to Maya and jump into Maya. Here, let's make this invisible. First of all, jumping back to our Disguse project here. In Disguse, we had this is out 6. This is out 6. So we basically have 12-meter span across the whole piece here. And so I'm going to put in a kind of radical idea, but we'll just see what people think of it. And what it is that I'm going to make. Switch back over to Maya. I'm going to make in my Maya scene here a cloth, and I'm setting the width of it as 12 meters, and I'm setting the height of it as 3 meters. And they're going to be 12 by 3. In fact, we'll increase that quite a lot. So let's make it 24 by 6 just to see what that looks like. No, I think we need even more, so let's make it 48 by 12 polygons. And let's look at it from the top. And from the top, we're going to create a UV based on camera. So that means that we have, in our UV editor, we now have a UV that's normalized that basically occupies that entire pixel space. And we know that our aspect ratio is 12 by 3 when we get it inside D3. Now, in order to make something like this work, you would need to have some kind of a structure. So I like to make things that can be really made. So what I'm going to do is I'm also going to put in a cylinder here, and I'm going to rotate that. Let's make that cylinder I can actually make it all as one thing. Yeah, I will make it all as one object inside Maya and bring it into D3, although there is a way that I could build it in separate pieces in D3. But I think for speed and efficiency, this is probably a better thing to do. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set my radius again to something like 0.3, 0.03. I'm going to make the height 3 meters, and I'm going to put it, I'm actually going to snap it to that line. I'm also going to duplicate and snap that to that side. Okay. So, what we're going to do is that we're going to apply a twist. And so we're going to add to our deformer a twist modifier. Now, the twist modifier needs to be lined up with our object. So it's going to be at -90. And then when we start to push the twist, now if we do the 0 to, say, 359, we can start to see what this is going to look like. Now, I think that's probably too extreme. I think we're going to end up doing something like 60. Or maybe maybe we end up going to like -30, +30. And you could imagine that this is basically a big screen, and it's going to twist because of some automation elements that we're going to build out to the side. Okay, so those pipes that we made earlier, apparently I've lost you all. So, good. I think we're back. Yeah, 000. And also, let's set our time frame. So I like to work to 359 just because it means if I'm trying to rotate something 360, that if I line it up with a camera later on or something else, it just gives me, I like to do that. So I'm going to do 359 frames. I want to come back to this position at the end of that so that I'm always looping, okay? Then I can go to, say, 180 frames in, and at 180 frames, I'm actually going to set this keyframe again. So now I can do two separate things over the course of this. So now we'll go to 90, and at 90, I'm going to go to -30 and degrees, or 270 frame. I'm going to go to 30, -30. So the opposite way. And we'll key both of those. So now we have this piece of twisting fabric that goes like that. Now, we also want to deal with these pipes. So this one is going to rotate -30. Nope. Okay, so this is 120. And I want to keyframe that. So this was going to 90, and it's going to keyframe that. So when we get to 180, and this is going to go back to 90, and we're going to keyframe that. And when we get to there. We're going to go to 60, and we'll keyframe that. Okay, so now, and then we go to 90, keyframe that. One, we do the exact same thing. So now we come to 90 degrees here, and this is going to 60, key selected, and this one 270 is going to go to 120, and so we'll key that as well. Okay, so now we're actually going to group all of this, including the twist handle, and we're going to rotate it all 90 degrees. I'm not going to move its position, but what I am going to do now is grab each of the objects in the group, which let's just check that they work. And I'm now going, and I've added ABC export and ABC import as plugins to Maya to be able to export an alembic file. So now I go to cache alembic, and I go to export selection to alembic. I'm going to do the time slider because I want from 1 to 359 as my range. I don't put anything else in this because D3 is actually quite simple as far as alembic, and it only allows you to really bring a polygon mesh with a UV that's been animated. So I am going to have UV right, world space, and right UV sets on, and I want it to be Agua, which is a 2014 extension. That's the one that D3 is also using. Now I'm going to go and I want to put this into my D3 projects folder. So I'm going to do my D3 project, see what I'm doing at the moment, but hopefully it will make sense in a second. So that's going to run through an animation in Maya. So let's switch back over to Disguse. Just check that everybody is seeing what I'm doing now. It seems like you are. Back in my Disguse project, I am going to import a new projection surface. So let's go from Spiral Truss 1. So we're going to duplicate Spiral Truss 1. The reason I'm duplicating that is because it's already set to 0, 0, 0. So let's duplicate that. We're going to call it twisting screen. And we're going to change it to be our alembic. And so if we look here, now I'm going to tell you that D3 at the moment you have to quit out of your D3 project in order to see this alembic file load. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'll switch back over to Maya for a second on OBS here. So let me switch to Maya so that you don't lose a screen, it doesn't go blank. I'm going to quit out of Disguse and reload it. And hopefully my alembic will have appeared. Although it's a little sketchy and sometimes doesn't, but we'll see. Let's do video content on screen. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add an animate object module preset. And it's only going to be dealing with the animate functions. And I have to build a configuration. So I'm going to go 1. And configuration 1 is only going to affect the twisting screen. And the twisting screen animate button first is going to be 0. So let's now duplicate this and make 2. Except 2 is going to be 1. So now, if I set that to 1, and I set that to 2, now that's over 15 seconds, we actually get our twisting animation added into our scene every 15 seconds or so. So let's add in a couple more. And now let's right now we've taken that up quite a ways. Let's look at our video. In fact, let's just play on our video screen our content above and our content below. Now we could, now this is just hanging. I have to presume that somehow that's structural there. In fact, let's build that really quickly. So I'm going to switch back over to Maya really quick. Oh, you didn't get to see any of that. Let me do that again. Right. I brought in this, what that's going to do is 0 is going to be frame 0, 1 is going to be set through frame 359, and it will tween based on the time in my timeline between those two fixed states. So that's why you want to be able to create loops, so you want to be able to create end-to-end sections that have loopable moments so that you can transition from one look to another look if you're doing multiple types of orientations or whatever in your alembic export. But once you've set up that animation and you've reloaded D3 with that screen in there, then you I'm going to set a resolution that's a bit higher. Okay, so that's better. And so now what we've got our twisting screen over top of our automation setup that's down below, which allows us to lower and move our screens. Cool. Well, look, that was just on the fly. Like, didn't really plan to kind of do as long as I did. I think I went almost an hour and a half, which is fine. Hopefully you got something out of that. If you want to see something different or new, or you want me to make something totally different, please send me some suggestions in a message or an email with an alembic file and see the kind of stuff that we did here, learn about the LED setup or learn about the automation setup. Yeah, I'd be happy to help, and send me some suggestions about other stuff that you'd like to see me do. Hope you've enjoyed that, and I look forward to getting your feedback. Thank you very much, and have a good day.